Hi, I'm Bleiweiss. I'm a Rabbi in Somayach, and I'm going to take you on a tour. More specifically, I'm going to take a tour with my students in Somayach to Europe, specifically Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Poland. And we're going to explore really the Jewish world it was. A theme that comes up a lot is the focus on what's called the Shoah, or the Holocaust. I believe that there are a lot of ways of doing these trips, many of them cynically, in which Holocaust, which has a gore and in a negative way, an appeal that grabs you because of the sheer horror of the thing, that can be used manipulatively and cynically. And there are tours that do that, or can take that towards somebody's own in somebody's own agenda. Our approach is to guide and try to recreate the world that was built up over the course of more than 1,000 years. The rich world of Torah, the Gedolim, the great Jews, the common Jew, who, without painting too much of a fairy tale, but the common Jew was an impressive person who could, on the drop of a coin, could quote the relevant Gemaras to whatever topic you had in mind. And that's really the purpose of such a tour, because when you come back and you see the devastation of not just the Nazis, but the ensuing devastation of the assimilation. There are Jewish communities, but if they're from, they're usually because they're coming from some other already established religious base, and they're trying to transplant that into the various cities, or they're usually not religious and they're simply intermarrying and gone to the Jewish people. And that's devastating. And so the takeaway is, here I am, whatever I'm worth, and I'm the legacy. I've got to step up. I've got to rise to this. That's the purpose of I believe, a proper tour like this. I was partly inspired. We started my own organization called Nesivos that my partner still runs. Very fine tour, but it was started because the year before I got another trip, and the other trip, somebody gets up. This young professor at Bar-Ilan University in 1998 gets up in front of, there may have been 500 young impressionable people, young men from yeshiva on one side, young women from seminary in the modern Orthodox context. And you could talk about anything in Auschwitz. People are so emotionally raw. They can go with you, and they're putty in your hands. And so if you're a machanech, of course, you want to tell them things that are going to inspire them and get them closer to Hashem and be machazik their learning and their shmiras and mitzvahs. Well, this professor gets up and he tells this very obviously intentionally selected story about a certain Rebbe, a Hasidic Rebbe, who, when asked, Rebbe, we're scared. Should we stay? Should we go? Before the worst atrocities had unfolded, his response, like almost all the Rebbeim in those days, in the 30s, in the wake of the Nazi rise to power, was let's stay. Let's stay in Europe. We'll try to ride out this storm. And in the way he told the story, this professor from Bar-Ilan, they did. This whole Hasidus did, and almost every last one of them went to their death in the gas chambers. And he apparently has it on some kind of testimony. Some capo overheard one of the high-ranking Rebbitzins as she was walking into the gas chamber to her own death. She said, "Rebbe, you led us here." Devastating story. And of course, the takeaway, the message you're supposed to come away with is that that's what happens when you listen to your rabbis. That was clearly the agenda of this professor. Of course, I was standing there. You remember these old Roadrunner cartoons where Elmer Fudd gets befuddled again by Bugs Bunny, and he has steam coming out of his ears, because I'm certain that's what it must have looked like at that moment. But of course, you're standing in Auschwitz, you can't get into an argument or a brawl. I wanted to actually run over and tackle the guy, but that didn't work. But we had, in my group at least, we had a senior, big Talmid Chacham, somebody written in the Encyclopedia on the Jews of Galicia named Rav Meir Wunder, who gets up just equally as livid, and he said, "What is this Chil Hashem? How can he speak like this against the Gedolei Torah?" He said, first of all, Gedolim, this is my formulation, there's only one perfect person in the world, that's the Pope. He can say one thing today and contradict himself tomorrow, and in Christianity's lunacy, then both statements are correct. But by us, there's no perfect person. The Gedolim don't have prophecy. They don't know. So when you ask a question in 1930s Europe, should we go to the Golden Medina, America? Should we go to Palestine? Should you stay in Warsaw? Confronted with those three options, it's a reasonable thing to say, stay here, because you go to America, that's it, the neshama's dead. Those were the statistics. It's not much better in Palestine. And at least if you stay in Europe, maybe your Olam Haza is compromised. Maybe the Nazis will kill you, but at least you'll get Olam, that's not Olam Haza, at least you'll get Olam Haba. He said, the Gedolim didn't know. The fact that the Rebbe, I've got this one kicker, he threw it, and the Rebbe got out. He saved his own neck and let all of Chassidim go to their deaths. As if the Rebbe wanted that, his Chassidus was wiped out. Baruch Hashem, they were able to rebuild, but the cynicism was palpable. In any event, there are a lot of ways of seeing these things, and one should see it in the context of our history, of our nitzchius, of our eternity, and that's of course in the spirit that all these tours took place.